Given that the ever-elusive Nathan Diaz recently appeared on Ariel Helwani's ESPN MMA show, I thought the time would be perfect for us to have a dive into what the future holds for this revered veteran. This interview, if you haven't seen it yet, is pretty standard as far as modern-day Nate Diaz interviews are concerned. He spoke about his continuing dedication to the fight life in terms of his training. He again gave a few subtle digs to the UFC and the overall landscape of the mixed martial arts game, never being too far from expressing his frustration with how the sport as a whole is run. And as you would expect, he made sure to outline his thoughts on many of his rivals within both the 155-pound and 170-pound divisions, dropping praise and criticism in equal measures as Helwani quizzed him about his intentions moving forward. The thing about Nate Diaz is that your own take on his overall shtick is largely going to dictate how you came out of this interview. If you don't buy what he's selling, you'll likely disregard this entire 40-minute conversation as a simple attempt on the part of Diaz to quote-unquote remain relevant in the face of his waning activity inside the octagon. And yeah, I think if you're putting on your critical hat, you can certainly find a lot to work with. Nate's insistence that he is still an elite and in many ways undefeated fighter is likely to set alarm bells ringing in the minds of those who take every single word that comes out of his mouth at its most literal meaning. But I suppose for me, Diaz's interview persona isn't something that I've ever taken in from that perspective. Before we get into his future and his comments on the various lightweight and welterweight contenders who could be seen as potential opponents for him, I thought it would be interesting to shed a little light on the approach of both Nate and Nick Diaz to the monotonous responsibilities of being a blossoming star in the fight game. Because like any divisive presence in the public eye, having an understanding of how the public perceives stars such as yourself is paramount in furthering your success. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the Diaz brothers have concocted this multi-layered facade designed to cause division between their fans and detractors in the vein of a Floyd Mayweather. But on a very basic level, Nick, and in particular Nate, understand just how meaningless that tiny portion of their life they spend in front of a camera actually is. These guys have been fighting for their freedom to live the way they want to live since they first set foot in an MMA gym. And if you truly do buy into their constant denial of any mistakes or shortcomings on their part, then I do believe that you are overlooking a vital component of managing life under the glare of the public eye. Again, these guys spend the most minute fraction of their life in front of a camera, whether that be within the octagon post-fight, on a weekly MMA show, or on any podcast appearance or impromptu TMZ interview. They can sell you the Diaz attitude during that time, that little sliver of time that they pop into whenever they see fit. And I am not talking about their overall attitude towards life or calling them fake by any means, quite the opposite actually. I believe that both of these guys are real enough to understand just how malleable the spotlight can be. So when a battered and bruised Nate Diaz jumps onto the mic post-fight and says, "Yeah, I beat that guy's ass, he's not a real fighter, I'm not even hurt, I won the fight," don't be so quick to let that stand as your takeaway. Whenever Nate speaks like that, do you really think he's not going back to the gym and accepting his shortcomings just like everyone else? Sure, he fights a certain way and he believes in a certain path to victory, even if you do decide to kick his leg repeatedly. But I think that all ties into his views on martial arts and the concept of winning and losing more than anything else. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment below to keep this train moving. We're looking forward to bringing you even more excellent content this year, so make sure you subscribe now to stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. So when I watched the Nate interview on ESPN and listened to him speak about having already killed the lightweight division, I instantly pictured legions of fans calling him deluded and punch drunk. But to me, Nate's just having a bit of fun with it, something that has allowed him the freedom to say absolutely anything when the time comes to take the mic. Some fighters strive to be loved, almost selling their soul for the adoration of fans who they will never actually get the chance to meet with or connect with. Nate deserves all of the credit in the world for his loose attitude towards fame. He doesn't need to be consistent, he doesn't need to make sense, because in reality he's probably going to be laughing about what he said in that interview directly afterwards with his friends. It's that realness that people admire in him, even if they can't quite put their finger on it. And it has been the thing that has endeared both of these guys to me over the years. They genuinely do not give a shit about what they say to the media, because they don't hold that tiny sliver of exposure to the same importance that most fighters do. And it's refreshing, honestly. There's a lot of tryhards, fakes and phonies in this sport, and thankfully, guys like the Diaz brothers stand as proof of the merits of a healthy perspective. Anyway, I'm rambling on. While I again have a lot of respect for Nate's approach to navigating the treacherous waters of fame, all in all, there isn't too much we can say for certain as far as his future is concerned. According to the man himself, he plans to fight multiple times this year, although he made it clear that his days at 155 pounds are through. With an eye on either Dustin Poirier or Charles Oliveira in particular, he seems to be set on drawing one of these two men up to welterweight in the hope of securing a big money fight sometime in the near future. But to be honest, I don't really see either fight happening anytime soon. Look, Nate is a draw, of that there is no doubt. And while his name would certainly look good opposite either one of these men's on a UFC pay-per-view, I don't see the UFC playing ball with Diaz that easily. Dana spoke in January to the media and revealed that Nate would be returning to lightweight this year, something that goes completely against what Diaz himself told us more recently. Are the two parties in talks? Probably, but it rarely is smooth sailing when it comes to negotiations between the promotion and the Diaz brothers. Because as much as Nate talks a big talk, he's not a member of either the lightweight or welterweight elite right now. And while I think Poirier, Oliveira, or even Jorge Masvidal would be fun and bankable fights, I find that potential opponents for Nate Diaz are incredibly difficult to predict. A lightweight champion needs to be crowned, so naturally I'd like to see Charles Oliveira fight Dustin Poirier for that honor. But even still, it does look as though Poirier-McGregor 3 is in the works for the summer. I think Oliveira will likely be paired up with either Chandler or Gaethje in that case, and either way, I don't see Nate getting a 170-pound fight against any of them. With Jorge Masvidal also seemingly set to take on Kamaru Usman in a rematch for the welterweight title, it does leave Diaz in something of an odd spot. Does he relent in his pursuit of huge names and just take a fight with an eye on getting back into the win column? Or does he maintain his stubborn approach to matchmaking and this whole conversation is rendered null and void? If he does go back to lightweight, Dan Hooker or Paul Felder are fights that make a whole lot of sense, all things considered. At 170 pounds, things get a little tougher. I would imagine that Nate is more likely to fight a lightweight at 170 pounds than a natural welterweight, but even still, it is truly difficult to know if both his and the UFC's attitudes can align to enough of an extent to see this one work out. Again, with Nate, it is near impossible to know how everything from the negotiations to the matchmaking will play out. But for now, let's just see what both parties have to say over the coming weeks. I'd love to see Diaz compete on multiple occasions in 2021, but if I'm being totally honest, I can see a lot of things getting in the way of that. So let's just sit back and watch this one unfold, shall we? Who would you like to see Nate Diaz take on next? And do you even think he will compete during this calendar year? Do give us your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like before subscribing to the channel to stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thanks for watching.